Welcome to Grawlix Tonight, the Grawlix Podcast live show. I'm Randy.
I'm Melanie.
And I'm Jesse.
And tonight we have a special guest. We're joined by Robert Geronimo.
Hello, hello. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining us. I'm super excited. What was it? Last week we started talking about having you on.
Mm-hmm.
I've been pretty excited about it.
Yeah.
So here's what's on the agenda for this evening.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Paul, what's going on? Paul in the comments.
What's up, Paul?
I'm sure you've never heard that one.
No, never. But I love it. It's okay. I'm used to it.
That's what you can expect from our viewers. We love them. To ignore my constant disappointment sounds. Hey, Savannah, what's going on?
Hello, Savannah.
So here's what's on the agenda. We're going to talk to Robert about the cool things he is a part of. And then we are also going to do our Monster of the Week. No react at the news. I'm sorry. Basically, here's the news. Theaters are even more dead than they were going to be.
Yeah.
Or it was inevitable, but whatever.
Mm-hmm.
The ongoing saga of the death of the movie theaters.
But you heard about that new thing with HBO Max?
Yeah, that's the thing that...
Pretty crazy.
Definitely. You know what? You mentioned... Okay, I mentioned it. You mentioned it, but... let's jump into that super fast. Basically, what you're alluding to is HBO announced... Warner Brothers announced that all their 2021 movies are going to get a same day as... they're going to get streaming release same day as theatrical release.
Yeah.
And not just streaming release,. It's going to be the HBO Now or HBO Max for a month stream, like they're doing with Wonder Woman. Is that this month?
That's December 25th.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. The 25th. So, but yeah, basically all the movies they had slated for 2021, they're going to release in that same model, which means at least to see any Warner Brothers movies, you don't have to go to a theater if you want to see them the day they come out.
Right.
It's
pretty nuts.
It's a pretty big deal. It is. Can you imagine if it's kind of good? AMC theaters and whoever else got their public fits. They're. Well, I'm starting to think of
their urine and vinegar.
Yeah, I got that out earlier because man, I'm sure they're still feeling it, but they realize that's not the best fight to have publicly.
Sure. And what I thought was funny was Legendary was like, oh, we weren't aware of this because they're like, they're responsible for King Kong and Godzilla, and it's distributed through Warner Brothers. So like, apparently someone released a comment that we were not aware that they were doing this.
Whoa, really?
Wow. Get interesting.
Wow.
We thought it was a monkey and a lizard that we're gonna go throw down. No. It's gonna be two cinematic giants.
That's interesting. Well, okay, next week we're probably gonna be talking about that again. Because that I hadn't heard that about basically some of their partners not knowing they were doing that. That seems like a significant development that they probably should have been informed of.
It's 2020.
I can't imagine the legal and financial mess that reaps in like whatever existing contracts they had or whatever their arrangement is. That box office money is a big deal. And I was thinking about it after reading the initial story on this earlier today. I was like, if it keeps up that way, if that's like really, regardless what happens with COVID, if that's the way that it continues to go, I think we're going to see less huge dollar blockbuster movies. How could they afford to keep pumping those out if they're not getting the box office returns?
Yeah, it could be good only because maybe we won't have a Marvel movie every other week, and now there could be build up to actually enjoy this stuff again.
We might start to care about them.
Exactly. But the overall for the industry, I don't know. I mean, it's rough. It just goes to show you how little confidence they have in 2021 that they're going to do this. So, it's going to be a weird year, meaning 2021. It's already weird now.
It also, like, I'm kind of curious as to how the message it sends for the HBO Max streaming service, because like it's been a kind of like, in terms of news stories released on that we've talked about in the past, it's been kind of a roller coaster ride. Whereas like one week it's like it's huge, there's like so many millions of subscribers, and then the next week it's like, well, actually it's not that good because most of them were existing HBO subscribers. Their new like completely new subscribers are actually pretty low. So it has been a disappointment in that respect. So I wonder
Netflix
how much
would have canceled 5 shows by now.
Right. Right. Even if they were filming.
Yeah.
Glow was a good show. I'm so upset that they canceled that. Okay. Anyway, this is one of those weird topics that just fascinates me. So we got to move on from it. Robert.
Yes.
Thank you. We'll do the proper guest introduction. So, you came on our radar back in the day. It was like maybe 2 years ago.
Like not even a year ago, probably.
When we still talked about comics on the regular and not just dying movie theaters.
Seems like yesterday.
Right? I'm sorry. I'm just catching up on the comments here.
Is the White House in charge of the HBO number release? Probably.
Yeah.
But we had reviewed, I think it was just the first issue of Blood Realm.
I think we did all 3. There was 3 of the
first
initial
volume.
Oh, did we? Okay.
Okay.
We had discussed it on the show, and Robert, you, as you know, I address you like you don't know. You were the creator of that.
Am I? Oh, let me sit up a little bit.
It was probably a long period of time you blacked out. Well, during that time, you produced.
Right.
So you wrote and did the art on that.
Right, and lettered. Oh no, and I lettered now. That's right. That first volume, I hired a letterer. I colored, but with the red. But it's funny because now when you look at the later volumes, it kind of evolved a little bit because now I put gray tones, screen tones rather. Because I love manga, so I wanted to incorporate something like that to just give a little bit more texture and dimension to the characters. So I actually went back when Peter Simeti was going to launch The Giant, which was the collection of Volume 1. I was like, all right, I want to change things that I did in that first volume so I can just make it all coherent with the rest in terms of the coloring, in terms like I started adding highlights and stuff like that. So he was like, you're a madman. Just don't George Lucas this. And I was like, don't worry. I'm not going to do that.
Right.
I got to be careful.
He changed everything. He put a character in there that wasn't there before.
Right.
Madness.
But I actually enjoyed your review. I remember it because it was like a nice discussion. And it was really cool to hear everyone's points of view, especially because you didn't read the next ones because they weren't out yet. So I was
right.
See where you thought things were going to go. Is this the end or is there more? So that was cool.
Yeah, if I remember right, that was the only thing that we really hit on that we were unsure about. But we also acknowledged that like this is just the first, and we knew you had more coming. Or maybe we discovered that later. But was it felt a little exposition heavy, but it was also like world building. Like you were definitely establishing this whole new like history for this world, not just like here's some characters, like here's an epic backstory and like royalty and betrayal and all this crazy stuff.
Right.
One thing that really struck me that I think is part of the reason it's always stuck in my head is the art style. It's very stylistic and kind of unique. And I'd be interested to see the touch-ups you did on that. And also, I haven't kept up with the series. I apologize.
It's okay.
But the very high contrast, like basically black, white, and red style.
Like a block print. I keep going back to block print because that's what I know. And then I was like shocked to find out that it wasn't block print. Did you say that you worked digitally? Is that how it was done?
No, it's all traditional.
It's all traditional, but it's all it's ink.
It's all ink. Yeah, just very aggressive inks with toothbrush and stuff like that.
Awesome.
Yeah, I've been doing draw streams on my channel now because a lot of people wanted to see, how I draw. So I've been doing that every Tuesday nights with some of the other alternate guys, but I'm really heavily influenced by block prints and stuff like that, because I wanted the book to feel like a medieval manuscript. I wanted to feel like it was from this world. Like you went in there and you just grabbed something out, and this is what you have. So that was the idea, and it keeps evolving. But it was originally just going to be 3 volumes, and then Peter was like, "Listen, if you have more that you want to tell in this crazy saga," he was like, "I'm down." So I said, "Let's make it 6."
Perfect. Yeah.
So that's it. He's not getting any more out of me after that.
That's it.
6 volumes, but it's all going to be one giant complete saga, and it's all going to tie in, and it's going to wrap everything up.
Awesome.
Okay, that's interesting. That's something I was wondering about. As I mentioned, I haven't really kept up. I was curious as to where it was at. Like, what was the status of it now, and kind of where. So you're working towards wrapping it up now?
No, so we just finished because of COVID. And
okay.
We just finished volume 3. So that issue just came out and was sent to all of the people who ordered the book. I know Peter he's going to have to do a second print run on that issue. But see, if you guys haven't followed, I don't want to spoil anything, but I make a conscious effort to make each volume unique from the one that was previous. So the first one's I like to call it the stage setter. Like, here's the world, okay, here's the rules, here's a little bit of history. Now let's take some journeys deeper into what's in this map here, that I have at the back. So, and I also incorporate sci-fi element spoilers later on. So I don't want to spoil if you guys end up reading it, but yeah, I keep things interesting and different every time. That's very important to me, is that when you read it, it's a different set of characters. Some characters return from the beginning, but it's really like a different perspective, of this war. That's what it is.
I'm going to pull up some images. I just did a Google search here, just so people can get an idea of.
Oh man, this is what we were missing when we reviewed it in the first place.
Right,
we didn't have video when we were talking about it the first time.
Volume 3, number 2. So that's pretty close to one of the later ones.
Yeah.
Oh, that's it's the cover, right? Like, if we walked into a comic store, assuming there's some around still, we'd see that.
Oh, snap.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
Cool. You mentioned something. This is just following a kind of a random thought here. You'd mentioned you'd hired a letterer for the first volume.
For the first volume, yeah.
So how does it? I'm not super. Now this is released through Alterna Comics, and I'm not super familiar with how they work. Do you have to produce? Do you have to finance the book itself? The book yourself, and then is there a deal worked with them? Is that how they work?
It's just So it's just like Image, where you create the book, you get everything done. If you have to hire people to do the art or do the lettering and the inking or coloring, whatever, you get that all together, and then you submit it to the publisher, and then they decide whether or not they want to take that book and distribute it, and then you get a cut and they get a cut. Okay. So that's how it works. What I love about Alterna, and just Peter in general, who's become a dear friend of mine now after this, because it was published 2 years ago, Blood Realm. So that was probably 2 years ago you guys did that review.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Oh, it's crazy time now. I don't know.
I know, it's nuts. But yeah, I mean, Peter's great, and he supports the creator's vision, and that's what I like. Is that he's not, if anything, he recommends like, hey, listen, I know what my readers want, so I recommend the color red, which actually he suggested. It was going to be all in black and white in the beginning, because I wanted it to feel really block printy. Very
sure,
block.
Yeah.
So even like an etching. But he was like, listen, I know these comic shops. If there's just some kind of color, it'll help sell it, and it'll help them, kind of be more enthusiastic to sell it to their readers. So we did that, and now I feel like it's synonymous with the series. It's I can't imagine it without it. And even name change. In the beginning, it was Kingdom of Blood, and he was like, I really like that title, but we need something a little bit more snappy, something that's smaller. Because the thing is, you were competing with I mean, not so much now, but you're competing with hundreds of books on the shelves. You need that title to pop. You need it brief because you're just going to move on to the next one. I mean, it was just at the time there were just so many books out. It was ridiculous.
Right.
Because they were trying to flood each other out. You know, the two big ones.
Yeah.
And here we are in the middle trying to exist. You know.
Yeah.
So, but the red really helped pop, and I'm fortunate that it's sold and continues to sell well.
What's next? What's after that?
What's after that?
Well, no, I was just trying to think. It was, I mean, if there's more you want to dive into on Blood Realm, we can. But
sure.
If this just finished, is the other project we're going to talk about, is that kind of your next focus?
Right. So now Blood Realm still has 3 more volumes. So I'm currently working on the 4th one. And
okay.
Yeah, so
I feel like I'm not paying attention. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
I'm very distracted by things.
I'm the same way. Whenever I go on Peter's channel, he purposely distracts me by popping up the chats, and I'm just like a dog. I'm just like right. I just read them. So, you know, because we had COVID, and as much as I would love to illustrate this next story, I'm actually not the illustrator on this one. I realized that I would have a nervous breakdown because Blood Realm is taking up so much of my time and so much of my sleep and energy, and sometimes literal blood and sweat and tears. You know, those pencil sharpeners, you got to watch out.
Yeah. Oh, that's legit.
Yeah. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to take advantage of this time with COVID because although it's still work, you know, teaching from home and everything like that, I do have a little bit more time on my hands. So I was like, you know what? There's a story I have that I always wanted to do. I'm a huge fan of slashers and monster movies, and I want to do this. I want to make this character happen. And as I was illustrating it, I was like, you know what? My style, you know, it needs to look like a classic comic book feel for this particular book, which is Wirehead. And it is an homage to the classic slasher films from the 70s and the 80s and 90s. It's weird that we say like maybe classic for 90s. It's a little strange now, but
it's true though. Yeah,
it's true, you know. And you know, even monster movies like the Universal stuff, I love that stuff. And I just always wanted to create a monster of my own, and specifically one that was robotic. So yeah, hence Wirehead. So I realized that, you know what, this style needs an EC comic book feel. You know, I love EC comics from the 50s, and I wanted this to have even like an Archie look in a weird way. You know, it's like these characters, it makes it that much more jarring. It's like when you see violence in manga, because the characters are cartoony, but sometimes when the violence happens, it's so insane that it's just as jarring. It's just even more jarring, rather, you know? So I actually ended up working with a former student of mine who's been trying to get work, and I've been working with him very closely. And I was like, you know what? I think this is a great opportunity for people to see what he does. And I think he's the right voice, artistic voice visually for this book. So, and it's all black and white. So if you guys are a fan of black and white horror, this is, it's definitely
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. The preview images you have on the Indiegogo campaign page look awesome.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. He's doing great.
Yeah, and I didn't even realize till earlier when I was giving everything another look before we got this going. I didn't realize you weren't illustrating this one. Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah, so and that was a transition because I'm so used to working the way I work because I do everything now on Blood Realm. After Volume 1, I do the lettering, I do everything, the coloring, the inking, the penciling. It's a lot of work, you know. It's just. Unfortunately, comics doesn't make you a millionaire, but
right.
You have to love this. And I love making comics, and it's just a medium that I adore. And I want to tell the stories I want to tell in this medium. So you have to push through it. That's a labor of love. But I knew I couldn't do this one too. It would just be too much. So I don't write scripts. So with Blood Realm, I actually I have specific lines I want to say, and I know certain beats that are going to happen. So it's almost like I work in like the classic Marvel method. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that.
Yep. Right.
Yeah. where like Kirby, I'm sorry, Lee would give Kirby's like some notes and a little bit of an outline, and then Kirby would go and just do his thing, and Stan would put the words in later. That's kind of like how I work. So, this way I feel I would like the artwork to serve the writing and not the other way around. And I just think that works for Blood Realm. I think for Wirehead, I realized quickly that I can't do that because he likes direction and he likes to know exactly where everything's going. Because there's some times where I just draw and a story moment will happen, and it's just because, and I didn't expect it, and it changes things in Blood Realm.
Right.
So it's almost like a spontaneous vibe to it. But with Wirehead, I couldn't do that. So I had to get in that scripting mode. I was like, how much do I describe? Because I don't want to be a control freak, even though I am a little bit.
Sure, yeah.
I still want to, give him room to play. So it took a couple of tries in getting that going, but then next thing you know, we gelled, and then Wirehead really started to happen. And that's very important with a creative team when you're working together with an artist and a writer. You want to have that gel. It's so important.
So which way? Yeah, I mean, I imagine it would be difficult to, especially since you are used to Blood Realm doing everything yourself.
All right.
I imagine it would be hard to kind of let go in a way of some of the control, especially with the art, which is, the face of the work there.
Oh, I'm a tyrant.
So where have you fallen in terms of your scripts then? Are you very descriptive with do you lay out panels for the artist, or are you like, this page, this dialogue needs to happen, and leave it more open?
Yeah.
Imagine somewhere in the middle, maybe.
Right. Yeah, it is. I just see Ara in the chat. Hey, Ara, how's it going? Ara's a big Alterna fan. He's awesome.
Hi.
So yeah, it's similar to that. I had to. I wasn't used to writing my dialogue out with everything, because I like to put the words in after with Blood Realm. Like there's certain lines that I know I'm going to put in without a doubt, but then there's some I like to happen later. So with this, I had to do that, but I didn't want to be too descriptive with the faces. It was that balance of being overly descriptive and not,
Right.
Yeah. So it was a challenge. It definitely was. But like I said, once we gelled, the magic started to happen, and then got to a point where I didn't have to be as descriptive anymore, because it's like he's reading my mind now. So it's fascinating how that happens when the writer and the artist suddenly become in sync.
I've got to show this image from from the Indiegogo page.
This is
gore image coming up. I love the yeah. I just opened the new. I love since it's the black and white. I do love all the detail. It's
right.
Like if you look at what's there, you've got a couple characters, you've got some trees in the background, like kind of like a basic layout. Super detailed though. There's so much going on. Yeah, I like it. I like this style quite a bit.
Yeah, it's that balance, like you just said. It's like not drawing too much attention, toward the back, so the front, that big moment can happen. It's like, and it's explosive. And originally, so trivia, we actually had a colorist originally, and he's a phenomenal colorist. But what I noticed, what started to happen was that the line work started to, you started to lose it.
Right.
And I don't know if that has to do with modern colorists, because he's an amazing colorist. I think more so it was really about a testament to the type of line work that Michael was doing, that no matter what, you have to be careful how you color this. And I showed it to Peter accidentally. I meant to show him the colored version. He was like, "What is this?" And I was like, "Oh, I want to get your opinion. This is the black and whites." He was like, "You're not doing this in black and white?" I was like, "Yes, I am." Yeah, no, I am. Yeah, and it's, and I feel that the character too just suits the black and white. That menacing silhouette there and everything like that. And for those of you, so for people who don't know, it's about a cybernetic creature that terrorizes these unsuspecting teens in the Pocono Mountains. So very, traditional 70s, 80s horror. slasher rather, but I'm a huge fan of sci-fi. So sci-fi horror in particular. So I know we're going to talk about like our favorite monster type movies and slasher stuff. I consider The Terminator, the first one, to be a slasher film, without a doubt.
That's super interesting. Okay, yeah, I like that. I like that quite a bit.
So we could dive later because I know you wanted to talk about that stuff. So yeah, I definitely feel that it has that vibe, you know. And what disturbed me always when I was a kid, when I saw that film, and even later on, I don't know if you guys, you know, this might be a deep cut, but Death Machine by Stephen Norrington. If you guys know that, check that out. I watched that one day at like Channel 11, like when I was young, and it's about a killer machine that looks like a dog thing, but it's big. And what creeped me out about, and it was like a sci-fi vibe, it was kind of like an Aliens kind of ripoff thing. And both the Terminator and this Death Machine thing, I realized like you can't gouge out its eyes. There it is. Yes. And Brad Dourif is in it. This movie's wild.
Brad Dourif, yeah. I actually randomly was watching a YouTube video about that movie like 2 days ago.
Oh, I love it. Even when I was a kid, like it creeped me out, but it's not so scary anymore. But the parts that still creep me out is like when the thing grips you. You know, like I said, you can't gouge out its eyes. You can't like, you know, spit on it or bite it. It's not going to feel anything. It's like a bulldozer. So it's just going to keep squeezing or biting and biting. So with that scene with Wirehead, I was like, imagine this being that was created to serve, right? But he thinks he's helping you, but he's actually doing the opposite. So when he squeezes, there's nothing you can do to make him, you know, there's no pain receptors or anything like that. So he's just going to keep squeezing. And then as your skull's cracking, you hear, please remain calm.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah. So that's Wirehead. And I teach art history at 2 universities. I love history. I'm a history nut. And I wanted it to have, especially World War II history fascinates me. And I wanted the creator of Wirehead, because I love the Frankenstein myth. I think the Frankenstein myth is fascinating because it always it makes you ask yourself, who's really the monster, Frankenstein or the monster itself, you know? So is man the monster here in this story? So with the creator, who is the doctor who makes Wirehead, I wanted to tie it to World War II history, but not German, but Japanese. Because I feel like what people don't know is that there were some awful camps and research facilities that were going on in China that were run by the Japanese. And they did stuff that, let me tell you, man, it'll give Auschwitz a run for its money. Now, that's not to discredit anything that happened there, but I mean, like, it's horrifying. And I wanted to bring a little bit of that stuff to light, because what really creeped me out was that some of these guys, especially one in particular named Dr. General Ishishiro, he was given immunity and he ran this facility. The stuff he did will just you'll have a hard time sleeping. So he was given immunity when he came over to the States because they wanted his research.
Right.
Lived out the rest of his days here in the United States. I think he even helped out like a local professor in a university. And I thought that was so dark. So what if the creator of Wirehead was creating metal men kind of in Japan, for Japan, but then when he was granted immunity, right? So he was allowed to continue his research, and he was given a secret laboratory in the Pocono Mountains. But there he's working on these creatures, except that one is very successful, and that's the prototype that we see that we call Wirehead. Except that something goes wrong. He goes a little haywire. So now he does the opposite. Instead of serving, he kills. And this thing gets out of the facility in 1999.
So interesting. Sorry. No, yeah. So this is a graphic novel.
80 pages too. It's probably going to be 90. Yeah. So you're getting your money's worth. That's for sure.
Yeah, that's why I was curious. Is this as far as you know, is this like a one and done type graphic novel then, or is this something that will continue on?
It can if the readers want it, but it's a one and done story.
Like any good slasher, right?
Yeah. There you go. But I always drove me nuts into recent horror films, although maybe more so now. Lately, I could see that some are sprouting, but they have like that ending that's not quite right. Because I like that. I don't feel like every horror film should be like, oh, good, right. Everyone's safe and okay, the sunset good. I'm good. No, you should walk away feeling uncomfortable. You know, I think that's the best stuff. Like, although The Exorcist technically has a happy ending, the way you get there when the priest jumps off out of the window down the stairs, like you're like, well, by the time the movie's over, you're just thinking about that moment. You know what I mean? Where he's just holding the priest's hand, where he's still alive as he's dying down there. It's just like, it's like, whoa, you know? So, oh yeah, go ahead. I see you can speak.
Oh, I was just going to say that. Yeah, that's interesting. And that'll definitely tie into, I'm curious as to the movie that Jesse watched, how it ends, but that'll definitely tie into what I have to say about my movie later, is the idea of this. Yeah, it's not necessary. It's some of the best ones aren't the like the cops in the ambulance are here and they're sitting in the back of the ambulance and we got the blanket on, everything's fine.
Right.
And then on the flip side, like then you've got the Friday the 13th endings where it's like it's that, but then there's like some nonsensical dream sequence, like
yes.
But what's this? Like, well, that's
but wait, there's more.
That's so tacked on. And like in the case of the first Friday the 13th, literally tacked on, that was not written. They're just like, we need something.
Oh yeah, completely. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Sorry. Continue.
No. I completely agree. So yeah, there's a balance to achieve that. So it took a while for me to really come up with an ending where, you know, it leaves you with that, but also could it continue? It can, but it doesn't have to. You know, we could just leave it there and everything will be, you know, you'll feel satisfied. But I'd love to create a slasher verse. Like if we want to talk about the big dream, you know, I have all these characters that, you know, they haunt me enough. I need them to haunt you guys now. So, yeah, that's what I'd love to do, is eventually create this universe and maybe, you know, have them meet Wirehead. Who knows, you know, but right now, that's like the long-term dream. But right now I just want to get this single story out, this complete story of this character. Thank you, Ara.
Yeah, how you coming on the show tonight even come about is it was randomly, because the Twitter algorithm is as it is, seen your tweet about the Indiegogo. I didn't realize it was going on, and I retweeted it and you reached out to me, but like it's already funded, so that's awesome. That's so you're working on like stretch goals and stuff now.
Stretch goals, yeah. So we're trying to get some stretch goals in there. At least we want to hit 200 backers so we could get our third backer bonus. So with our third backer bonus, everyone gets a digital companion track, 2 of them, which is like a soundtrack. So you get that.
Nice.
So and you can listen to it as you're reading the book, and it has a straight crazy 80s vibe, like Terminator with John Carpenter, and it's produced by the Institute 91, who they're really good friends of a fellow alternate creator. The alternate guys are great. It's like another family. I love these guys. We're always helping each other and stuff like that. And these guys were a fan of the Indiegogo, and they just were so inspired by it that they made these tracks and sent them to me. So I said, can I do something with this? Because I want the people who are getting the book to enjoy this. So they're like, go for it. So once we hit 200 backers, everyone is going to get these tracks. There's 2 of them.
Oh, nice.
So, yeah. So we're almost there. We're almost there. And yeah.
For audio listeners, let's see. It says 9 days left. What is today? So that's the 12th, maybe 12th, 13th of December. And so, yeah, if you want to check it out or maybe back it, there's still time when this audio goes out. So
cool. Very nice. Yeah, and that's the so we had to do a fan art booklet. So I know your listeners can't see this, but if you see on the campaign, I mean, I'm honored, but people were drawing pictures of Wirehead in their style. So I was getting a ton of them on Instagram and Twitter, and I was like, you know, this stuff is so good. So just like with the Institute, I said, hey, you know, guys, I love this fan art that you guys are doing. I want people to enjoy this too. So I said, can I compile this in a newsprint edition? And all of the fan art that you guys have been drawing, I'm going to put it in a booklet for everyone, only backers. Like I'm not going to sell this afterwards, but it's going to be included in. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, yeah, right.
And I'm going to include this in the featured perk, which is the laboratory access, where I think you get the most bang for your buck, and it's also going to be an add-on.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, I checked it out, and I was like, wait, it's a slasher comic. Slasher comics, and we've talked about this on the show before, years ago, I think, are. I mean, as far as they're super rare.
Oh yeah,
because it's a tricky. I feel like it's a tricky genre or subgenre of horror to translate to page. How have you found that?
I at first I was like, well, you know what, I can't show too much because I need to be like, you know, that kind of like Hitchcockian. But then I realized, I was like, you know what, I was like, let's just have fun with this. It's a slasher. We're aware it's a slasher, but there is this sneak attack of history and sci-fi. So it's more of like having fun. But then I think the key to feeling that terror in the book is creating characters that feel relatable and not just cardboard cutouts that are going to get their head squashed. You know,
right.
When I was writing this in particular, because it's a little different with Blood Realm, because, you know, I don't know exactly how a goat man warrior would react to certain things. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You got to really feel their motivations,
right? Or, you know, the Sisters of Silence, who, you know, they just have these mystical powers and stuff like that. So it's a little bit different. But with here, I was like, you know what? It's really the first time I'm writing humans. You know, I can't quite count the Sisters of Silence as humans by the time when we meet them in the first volume of Blood Realm. So I wanted to create characters that were relatable. So I based them off of people I know and how they react to things. So they're very much based on real people who have acted this way in certain, not in terms of getting their head squashed or anything like that, but maybe panicking and freaking out over things. Like, I know exactly how they would react. So it's I think that's the trick, is like, okay, I would do that in this situation. Because one thing that drives me nuts in slashers is when they go off and do stuff that I'm just like, no one would do that. And you just pull me right out of it, because it's like, no one in their right mind would just run to the shed with all the chainsaws. Unless you're going to grab one.
Right.
Awesome. So you had mentioned Death Machine.
Yes.
What are some of your other influences, or I guess we could get into the slasher discussion in general. What are, I guess, some of the what did you pull from when creating this or writing this?
Right. So definitely, like I said, Terminator, because I still consider that a slasher. I really do. He's knocking off all of the Sarah Connors in the beginning, that slow, steady pace, and when he walks, and there's even that body horror element when he's like pulling the things out of his arm and his face and stuff like that. Like, it's just he feels no pain. You know, his one goal is to literally stalk and kill. So it has a slasher vibe. It really does. And I stand by that. Even Alien too. You could even argue that Alien might be a slasher as well, right? But that was really the biggest draw, was the merging of sci-fi and horror, because I think that's my favorite, like that blend right there. And ironically, I wasn't a huge fan of Friday the 13th until this is going to probably sound a little crazy.
You're going to say Jason X, aren't you?
Yes. He knew where I was going. And I was like, oh,
right.
Wow,
you've got a cyber. You got a cyborg Jason right there. That makes sense. Totally.
Totally hooked me. And then after that, I needed to see the other movies, and I was like, "Oh, he's only in space for this one."
I love it. You're like kind of disappointed. You're like, "Oh, there's only this much space."
Right.
It's so odd to hear somebody who's like, "Yeah, when Jason went to space, that's the high point." The franchise is all downhill from there.
That's why they had to remake it. It was like, there's nowhere else to go. We did it.
There isn't. And I have to admit, though, you know, I haven't seen the movie in a long time, so I don't know if it still holds up, you know, but you can't deny that outfit, you know, his whole style and everything, it looks awesome.
Uber Jason, as he's referred to commonly. Yeah. It is pretty cool. The movie's super cheese, but they're all
exactly.
Even the best Friday the 13th are not really that good. Like, they're not great movies. So yeah, it's super cheese. I'd watched it I'd watched it a year ago, maybe, for Grawlix Cinematic Universe, our movie spin-off podcast. And yeah, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it for what it is.
Okay, good. I'm glad. So yeah, so that was a big one. That was a but then that led me into other ones. But the one that I always really liked as a kid was Freddy. And now there isn't much influence of Freddy in this, but the fantastical element of it I always found more appealing and a little bit more terrifying. I mean, obviously he haunts your dreams. I mean, what's more terrifying than that? But you know, it's just, he reminds me of it like Jason and Michael Myers. I feel like they kill, you know, but Freddy likes to play with his food first before he eats it. That's the vibe I get with him. So so I was like, you know what, if I do too much of that, then Wirehead isn't quite as terrifying, you know, with the initial reason with Terminator and stuff like that. You know, you don't want to give him too much personality in a way.
Right. Yeah, that's.
Do you watch Doctor Who at all?
I don't. A lot of people recommend that to me. Yeah. Is there certain episodes that people throw some certain like episodes to me, and they're like, "You would really like this episode," and I was like, I gotta watch it. I have no idea.
I was thinking Cybermen is what popped in my head. Because they kind of seem, I mean, they're not necessarily a slasher, but you know, they're robots and they're trying to basically turn all of the other people in the world, like kill them and turn them into robots. And but when you were talking earlier about Frankenstein, and there's an episode where they have like a Cyberman Frankenstein, and I'm like, yeah, I can totally see him just go out and just like turning into a slasher. And that's a really good idea. I mean, it's like, so I was just wondering if you were a fan and had any.
No, I don't know, but everything I see whenever like I see stuff online or people, you know, at me at certain episodes and stuff, like it all looks so cool. I wouldn't even know where to begin because I didn't realize there's like 10,000 Doctor Who.
Well, the art history buff in you has to see Vincent and the Doctor.
Ooh, all right.
So
right.
The Doctor literally takes Amy Pond to go visit Vincent Van Gogh, and
that's cool. And
wackiness ensues, you know. So I mean, like Vincent's already pretty wacky anyhow, but now we get to see like there's maybe he wasn't completely crazy, you know, like there was some stuff going on here.
That's really cool. I'll make my class watch that. That'll be perfect.
There you go.
That's amazing. And also, I love the design of Nemesis and Mr. X from the Resident Evil games. Really terrifying, you know, and I really enjoyed the remakes too. I'm a big gamer. It's like I can't draw all day. I need some cathartic shooting in Gears of War or whatever. I gotta just let it loose because otherwise I go nuts destroying my pages.
You're dealing with students all the time, so you've got to do some headshots. I get it.
Yeah. Oh, Rex Doom. Hey, Rex. How's it going?
Rex.
Awesome.
Okay, so actually, did you have a specific slasher movie you wanted to discuss? If not, it's all right. We can kind of roll into and then just.
You guys could go, and then I'll. It was really Terminator, you know, but I feel like I really dissect.
Terminator, I love, and Alien, and I noticed Paul was really on board with your comment about Alien being a slasher too.
Yeah.
And I Terminator was another one I did a couple of years ago on GCU, but it hadn't occurred to me until that last time I watched it. That it's like, this is totally a slasher movie. Yeah. It's got the sci-fi concept, obviously, and I feel like the second one, and more definitely as they go on, it's strictly hardcore like sci-fi action. But the first one really does kind of play the horror element pretty well. It's literally an unstoppable machine, and even though like Michael Myers and even Jason started off as they're humans, like they still have that same quiet but unstoppable killing machine thing to them.
You could even argue, if you really want. I mean, I guess we would need to class. We'll do this right after I say this comment, but first off, we're going to have to classify what is a slasher, because you could even argue Predator is a slasher.
Oh yeah, totally,
totally. First one, yeah,
especially the first one. So I think the question is, although it's hard to say because Alien had the final girl, so it's like what.
Alien is. I feel like with Alien, the slasher totally fits. It does have the final girl, like more so than. Well, Terminator does it too.
Yes, they do. Sarah Connor lives at the end.
But I think Alien's enough of a creature that more people might think of it as like a monster movie, a sci-fi monster movie,
right?
But it has the slasher structure. Really.
Yeah, yeah. I guess if you guys ever seen Black Christmas.
No, I have not.
Oh, okay. That's a slasher movie you guys need to watch for the holiday season.
That is, at least I know that the remake just came out, but the original is one that's been on my list, especially since like for this episode, I made a point to search out some kind of obscure ones. Yet I still haven't watched Black Christmas, so I don't know why. I need to stop dragging my feet on it.
It's December. Put it on. It's funny. It's not funny. Like, it's still great. It's a slow builder, just like all those horror movies. Even The Exorcist is a slow builder, but there's a lot of character development. And that's in the 70s, those slasher films where there wasn't anything supernatural to them. So you're dealing. Oh, Pieces is the greatest slasher movie ever. I have to check out Pieces, Rex.
Pieces?
Never heard that one. So,
it's okay.
Because it's a human stalking these girls in this sorority house. And it's obviously the holiday season, and you see a lot of things that kind of scream, parodies with the phone calls and stuff. It all started with Black Christmas, calling them and taunting them and stuff like that. I still find that stalker or that slasher very creepy in that film. Especially there's points of views where it's his eye, and it's like, so there's like a peeping Tom vibe to it. I think it's very well shot, and actually the guy who did that movie, if I'm not mistaken, I think it's the guy who did Christmas Story.
Really?
Whoa!
What's his?
Yes. This guy had a love-hate relationship with Christmas.
Right.
I'm sick of it.
Did the Grinch steal all of your presents, dude?
Yeah. So I would definitely, I would check that one out, and appreciate that the time it's made, and had Margot Kidder is in it, obviously.
Okay. Yeah.
And I don't know if you guys know Olivia Hussey. She was Romeo and Juliet, and she played Mary in that Jesus of Nazareth movie from the same director who did both those films. So what's funny is that every time she's at a con, everyone's like, "Oh my God, I love your work." She was like, "Oh, is it Jesus of Nazareth or is it Romeo and Juliet?" They're like, "No, Black Christmas." She's like, "Oh my God." It's hilarious.
To get back to what you mentioned, so what is a slasher? Paul has an interesting take that I feel is accurate, but maybe not specific enough. Paul said slasher, victim stalking, random disappearances, and a final girl. Because I was talking to Melanie the other day about, I was like, I'm really into slasher movies anymore, but there's certain movies that were being like online that are recommended as like, check out this slasher movie, and I'm like, it doesn't feel like a slasher movie, and particularly like the backwoods hillbilly, sometimes mutant hillbilly killers, where it's like a family of killers. And I guess the best, in my opinion, the best example of that is the first Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Hills Have Eyes too.
Or there's the Hills Have Eyes. And I guess yes, but those don't feel like slashers to me. And I don't know. I wouldn't fault somebody for classifying them as such,
right?
But I don't feel like they.
You get the final girl though.
That's the thing. Do.
Yeah, I think what it is. It's hard to pick because I guess I always associated slashers before like it became, I guess, like monster movies, because I guess technically Freddy is a monster,
right?
A demon. It's tough, but I guess like real hardcore slashers have a whodunit vibe to it. That's why I like Christmas, and even Popcorn is another one. You guys should check out Popcorn. That's another one. I don't
think I've seen that one either.
Oh, yeah, I've had to do a lot of research.
Sure. Oh, I bet.
Yeah. So I would definitely check out Popcorn and Black Christmas, and also the recent. Believe it or not, it was pretty good. I have to say, Hellfest. I don't know if you guys saw that. It was recent. It came out, I think, last Christmas.
Mm.
I'm sorry, last Halloween. So yeah, but they all have this whodunit vibe of who's the killer? Is it this killer? Is it he? The killer? And it's almost like a twisted, Scooby Doo thing. When you watch those from the 70s, and then of course it was brought back with Scream. And I'm not going to spoil who the killer is in Scream, but the twist is great. It's a great whodunit vibe to it.
Paul. Even Happy Death Day.
Yeah,
deal.
There you go.
Yeah.
Who is it?
Happy Death Day, super interesting. Well, we don't need to get too far into Happy Death Day, but it's super interesting. The first one, the second one just kind of drops that whole element altogether, because ultimately for me, the reveal of who it is super disappointing. You're like, what? Yeah. Why? Who cares? but
that's fair.
What?
It's more exciting to go on the adventure than it was to find out the killer. Yeah.
I feel like by the time you find out the killer, the movie's doing other things that are much more interesting than its attempt at the slasher plot.
Yeah.
The other premise takes over, and that's more what I'm interested in for me at that point.
Sure.
And for the filmmakers too, because the second one, I guess, is still maybe has that slasher element, but it's doing its own like 80s sci-fi adventure at that point.
Oh yeah. No, it's that's what I like about it. It's its own take on the genre.
Yeah.
I think that's what they needed to do, is kind of like, how do we breathe life into this?
Right.
Yeah.
How do we resuscitate this? But even the first Friday the 13th, it's a total whodunit. Like if you never saw that film, and you don't know who the killer is, and you're expecting the hockey mask guy, it's a total like, whoa. And the actress, is amazing in that ending. Like chills still when I see that stuff. Obviously, the chase is a little ridiculous, when they're going back and forth. But still, man, I mean, she plays that so well. And I'm trying to avoid spoilers, but I mean, like, probably everyone knows who's listening to this who I'm talking about.
Rex, you're totally on point. But Rex says slashers can be pretty broad, but you have those movies that feel like they go far above others, like Texas Chainsaw Massacre and Halloween. But the point I like that he makes it, I'm assuming Texas Chainsaw Massacre is strange, though. It's a slasher, but it isn't. It's one of the greatest movies ever. Yeah, I mean, like I mentioned, the like family hillbilly backwoods crazed killers, I don't feel like slashers to me. But Texas Chainsaw Massacre, I wouldn't balk at the idea of it being a slasher. The Leatherface is an iconic slasher.
Yeah, they're human.
When I think of something like, and it still applies, but like the Wrong Turn movies, everybody's favorite slasher Wrong Turn. Nobody knows Wrong Turn, but
Eliza Dushku, right?
Right.
A lot of research I had to do. I wasn't kidding around.
So, yeah, I don't know. I guess it's just one of those things of, of course, those have a lot more elements of slasher than maybe other kinds of subgenres in it,
right.
But yeah, you get different flavors.
Yeah, it's true. And what I think, just to, in terms of with Wirehead, the reason I think now is the time for the story is that when you look at the history of slashers, they were really born out of the post-Vietnam era. They were brutal, they were gritty, they were grimy, and you could see how whenever there's some kind of even political or whatever turmoil going on, it seems like the people need some kind of cathartic dismemberment.
Right.
Post 9/11, we had Hostel and the genre they call torture porn.
Right.
So I feel like after this, with the moral panic we're in, with the political climate we're in, the pandemic we're in, I think people are going to need some cathartic dismemberment. And Wirehead, I think is going to be a healthy way to venture into that in comic book form.
Yeah.
Rex, I don't know you, but I'm enjoying your comments.
Rex is great. He's a big old Turner reader. Yeah, he comes on my streams too, on the draw streams.
Well, spot on with some of this, and I love the category that some people have put it in is talking about Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Hicksploitation.
Ooh,
I love
I like that.
That is going to stick with me.
Yeah,
Hicksploitation. That makes sense.
that's fantastic.
I'm on board with that.
Yeah, it's great.
Have you ever seen Death Dream?
I don't know Death
I
Dream.
don't know Death Dream either.
Damn, I gotta check that one out.
I think I need to get a job where I could be like, I have to do so much research watching horror movies and sci-fi.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do I do that?
I'll be honest. The only reason I was able to do this is because of the pandemic, and that's why I was like, you know what, I need to take advantage of this because I'm gonna be so angry if I was like, you know what, you did nothing. You know, obviously I'm still working on Blood Realm, but like you have this other story that you're dying to tell. Like, what better time? Like now is the time. If anything, now, when you see what's going on, pursue what you got to pursue because, man, anything could happen.
That's very true.
Yeah.
Well, let's roll into Jesse. I want you to start with your pick for slasher of the week or what movie monster of the week, because I feel like yours more than any of ours fits Wirehead super well.
Right.
Ooh.
So what did you watch?
Okay, so just a minute backstory. My uncle would he would just tape. He had like HBO and he had Cinemax and all these cable channels, and we lived out in the country, so we did not. So he would just tape tons of stuff, and then he would send them off to the farm, and then we would get to pick through. And so I would watch some of these really bizarre, obscure horror films that like some people didn't even know existed. And when I found out that we were going to talk to you and that we were going to do slashers, the movie that came to my mind immediately was Hardware from 1990. And I was like, oh, surely I'll just find this, this can't be that unusual and this can't be that hard to find. Come to find out, you can't stream this thing in the United States.
Nope.
Like you have to have a hard copy of it in order to find it. And some things I didn't know, like I hadn't seen this movie in years, so it was kind of I wanted to revisit it. I wanted to see if it lived up to my teenage brain, what I remembered about it. But I thought, okay, what I remembered about it was this thing is a slasher movie. I mean, I know it's a robot, and I was like, but this is as much like you were talking about Terminators as a slasher movie, and I would agree. But this one, it was like this one's even more of a slasher movie because this thing doesn't feel like it has any kind of a soul. It's not even wearing a human face, right?
Right.
So, I had this was a movie that I just had in a box of movies that my uncle gave us, and what I remembered about it was even more basic than the movie actually is. I come to find out that this is actually based off of a comic done by the British comic. Was it
20,000 AD?
Yeah, 20,000 AD, and it's based on a story called Shock, spelled SHOK. And I didn't know that. I didn't know any of that growing up. This thing was very iconic in my memory. It was like this thing has a certain look to it. They went biblical with the naming of it. The killer robot is named Mark 13 after like a Bible verse or a chapter of the Bible. And they find it like this is a post-apocalyptic future where everything's irradiated, and so this nomad character goes out into the desert and goes into like this military establishment and finds these pieces and just brings it home with him. What could go wrong?
Yep.
Right. So we get back there and we've got like Iggy Pop is like a radio DJ, and he's kind of just like spouting the cyberpunk dystopian news at you, and then you've got this other scavenger who picks up the robot parts, not knowing that he's going to bring a death machine back home to his girlfriend for Christmas. I might add, this is a Christmas movie. Let's start that debate again. So he brings this robot head and a few parts back to this to this apartment complex, or what we would term an apartment complex, because it's very like, I don't know, cyberpunk and put together, and it looks rustic, even though it's the future, clearly. And this thing's like, it's not dead. So it comes back to life. Like they've basically it's kind of like the Alien story. It's like they brought this thing back with them, and then it starts killing everybody slowly. You know, like at first they were like, "What's going on?" Right? But it's so trippy. It's very much a visual movie. If you haven't seen it, like there's whole sections of this thing that are almost psychedelic, and the music plays in weird ways. Almost like church organ type of synth.
Yeah.
Just a lot of cool stuff happening here, and I don't want to like spoil the whole movie, because I think it's something that if you haven't seen Hardware, you should check it out, because it's definitely got that like UK comics vibe to it. But also very, very horror, but also like so much camp too. Like I just had a lot of fun with this movie. I was like, okay, this movie is not as terrifying as I remembered it, but it's definitely as awesome as I remember it.
It's got a lot of style.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that now. I didn't. Brady told me that was your movie, and I'm like, I don't know what that is, but as soon as he popped that up, yeah, I totally remember that growing up.
It's like, it's like, what if Johnny Five was alive? Didn't care if you were.
Now the directors, the other early movie the director is known for, Dust Devil, also had like cyborg stuff going on, but I don't remember it as well as I do Hardware. But that's why I was directed by Richard Stanley, and that's why I was super excited for Color Out of Space, because he had done like nothing since those movies other than get fired off of Island of Dr. Moreau in the 90s. So if I remember right, and something that I liked about Color Out of Space, because I felt like it had the same thing, is he likes kind of wall of sound style sound design with the music, where it's just big music and weird visuals, and that's kind of his style a little bit. And yeah, I'm gonna have to revisit this one. I'm glad you mentioned this.
Yeah, it's been a while since I've seen it, but I remember watching it at a friend's house, and I was like, "This is insane." The character, like the killer, the creature, is wild looking.
Yeah, it's not like we're so used to robots that can just move. They move like ethereally, like they almost move better than humans now,
right?
AI and whatnot. But this robot is a clunker.
Yes. It's real.
This is the car that you get to work in so that you can buy a better car.
Right. Yeah. You ever see Chopping Mall? Because that thing's more effective than
right. Yeah. This thing is scary. This thing's not meant to just kill you. It's meant to like.
Yep.
We turn you to pieces.
When I was messaging you about this episode, when I was messaging your name just totally slipped my Robert. I'm so sorry, Robert. But I was like, I should inform the person I'm talking to. And I was messaging you. I give you the option. I was like, slashers, or I guess maybe cyborgs too. But I was like, I want to do slashers. Yeah. We could have done slashers, cyborgs. I didn't think there was enough movies, but there was just enough. I think we could have squeaked out all slasher cyborgs this episode. Chopping Mall does feel like a slasher.
Oh yeah,
but it breaks a few of the, like it's there's a couple of the machines. It's not just one.
Right.
And you're right. Those things are they're basically, they roll on tank treads, so it's like Johnny Five, but less agile. Johnny Five seems to get around better.
Yeah, that's a good one though. Chopping Mall.
Yeah, that's fun. Okay. I should not comment more on these movies. Melanie, it's your turn. Do you want to, or if you want, do you want to go next?
Sure, I'll go next. Okay. Mine was not scary. My slasher movie was Dude Bro Party Massacre 3.
Dude Bro Party Massacre 3.
Yes.
Wow. It's my fault. No, it's not. It's not. We looked up. I chose that one.
It's my fault. He just pulled up the list, and I was like, oh, okay, yeah, I'll try that out.
I need to.
It knows what it is, and it uses that to its advantage. So I'll say that. But it's not actually it's the first movie.
Mhm.
But they still have the beginning exposition of the first two movies that never happened. And basically it's like a group of sorority people. No wait, fraternity. I'm sorry, I forget your guys.
And it's totally a spoof comedy.
Yeah, of course, it's a spoof. Fraternity guys that accidentally killed some lady. I can't remember this backstory. And then
Motherface,
and then Motherface was the killer in the first one, and they killed her. And then in the second one, which also didn't exist, it was her daughter. And this movie's ridiculous. So you find out in the very beginning practically who the killer of the third one is. But then it just goes on, and it's ridiculous, and it's way over the top in a lot of ways. But then it's still really funny. It does some things that are really interesting. There's in the very beginning, there's a character who it looks like he would have been the main character in the first two movies, and he dies. And then immediately after, you get introduced to his twin brother, who's coming back to solve his brother's murder. And he joins the same fraternity. And everybody they introduce him to, they're like, oh, you're back from the dead, woo! And they're like, no, this is his twin brother. And they're like, oh, weird. And I'm like, why is whatever. Why is it weirder? But it's not. It's just great. It's funny. I liked it.
Gotta check it out.
I love this poster. By the way.
Don't let a bro see it alone.
Yeah, it is.
That's
it's pretty
amazing.
Yeah, it's pretty ridiculous. And the kills are all ridiculous. But like I said, it knows what it is and it uses it to its advantage. And it does a lot of things where it'll make like all the characters are over the top. But they'll have somebody be totally over the top one way, and then they'll switch around and be like completely the opposite. There's one character that's like
he's kind of like the stereotypical big jerk of the fraternity. He's the big, like, he's kind of in charge. He's just a D-bag. Yeah,
to everybody, and makes fun of people for everything. And then there's just one instance where somebody's like, I can't believe you said that. You know I'm insecure about that. And he's like, no, dude, if you would have told me, I never would have said anything. I swear, I'm so sorry. You gotta communicate. Like completely the opposite of what his character should have done. And they do that kind of stuff a lot, and it catches you off guard, and it's funny. So yeah, I would recommend it. It's not scary at all. And the ending is almost offensive, really.
Yeah.
But
Nice.
but that's because I'm a woman, and it's obviously not made for women.
Okay, can I probe you on that here in a moment?
Yes, go ahead.
Because we didn't even talk about. I was going to ask you about it, but then you had to go home last night, so we didn't even talk about it then. So I just want to jump in real quick. Yeah, no, this is the kind of comedy that shouldn't work. It's so stupid. And we were talking about this element of it last night, but the acting, I think, is what sells it, because everyone in it has like perfect comedic timing and delivery, where it's like on paper, if I read through the script, I'd be like, this is so dumb. I don't want to watch that. But I enjoyed it. I watched it with her, and I enjoyed it quite a bit because they sell it. They sell the stupid like turns, and they're goofy without being over the top goofy. We've been watching Auntie Donna's Big Something House on Netflix. If anybody's
House.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's a super over the top, ridiculous spoof skit comedy show. Super enjoyable. But one thing I don't like is that like the three main guys, their performances is always like just on their faces is always over the top. They're always like super goofy faces. And this movie doesn't suffer from that so much. Like you get goofy faces and goofy like acting, but it's reeled in just enough to where it doesn't go into cringe. And they, like I said, they sell it well.
Okay.
It doesn't go into cringe goes into cringe a couple times.
There's one gag that is mentioned and then comes back towards the end that I hated. There is a gag. It does go a little far, but in general, I thought it was okay.
Yeah, overall the movie was all right.
So
it's not a complete waste of your time if you want to watch it.
Melanie, how did you feel about the way this movie treats women? Because I'm going to tell you, it's poor. It's real poor.
It's super poor.
It's intentionally poor.
Well, that's the thing. If I wasn't already certain that they were doing it kind of as a gag, then I might have been offended, because they do. Yeah, they're pretty messed up to women in this show. But it's obvious that they're doing it to make fun of exactly that, you know.
Can I get into slight spoilers, because I got it? How the slasher is ended up taken care of? That's super spoilers.
Is anybody actually going to watch it?
I would. You could spoil it. Maybe it may entice me more to even watch it now. You know?
So the part, and I think the part that Melanie's really referencing is how the slasher is taken out at the end of the movie is basically the final bro is joined by all the spirits of the murdered bros, and he bros out into this like long-haired, blonde, ripped bro god looking guy,
like a bro Hulk.
Like a bro Hulk. I mean, he's still just a dude. He's not like he's super muscly, but yeah, he hulks out and then punches the woman in her face and then just beats the crap, like just beats her as she's on the ground, and that's it. It's like, oh, it's just beating a woman. Okay.
Yeah. So I was like, yeah. But like I said, it's
Hey, Kazkill, we're talking about Dude Bro Party Massacre 3.
Yeah, Dude Bro Party Massacre 3. It's a thing. It's funny, and they treat women bad the whole time.
Yeah.
So it's obvious.
So at least they're consistent.
Yeah.
There you go.
But I mean,
honestly, even if it wasn't a joke, I might not mind, because women are crazy. But I think it's intentional.
It's Dude Bro Party Mass. Yeah.
It's Dude Bro Party. They're even like, they go to their stupid little frat party and they're like, no girls allowed. So there you go. Whatever.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. They take it to a ridiculous extreme, because guys want chicks at frat parties.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's just a sausage fest.
But they're having like touching feeling man moments or something, right?
They do. This was a crowdfunded movie I discovered afterwards.
And we watched it on Tubi.
Tubi TV, so you can watch it for free.
Yeah.
The format of it is like, I kind of wish they hadn't committed to the aesthetic so much, because it actually looks like it's shot fairly well. But they did the VHS thing, where it's obviously a digital VHS effect over top. The whole thing, they committed to it.
It's like something that Jesse's uncle would have taped for him. It's got like commercials,
right,
and then like cut out.
And it's interesting because Tubi TV, since it's free, inserts commercials like a lot of digital services do now. Their commercial breaks are actually timed out really well, to where the movie would go to like fake commercials, and then Tubi TV commerals would come in.
Yeah, every time.
So interesting.
So you'd have to guess if it was real or not.
That was pretty obvious. Yeah. It's pretty obvious.
Okay, Kazkill, I have no idea what a guy wants at a frat party, because I know no guys who went to those.
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, my concept of frat parties is what I've seen in movies. This is the movie.
Right. Yeah.
So maybe I'm wrong.
That's true. Yeah.
Randy, what did you watch?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Because I'm just going to keep talking about your pick if you don't stop me. I watched a movie I'd never heard of, or if I had, I'd forgotten about it, called Intruder from 1989. And it's not something that it seems kind of under the radar or forgotten. Interestingly enough, in some versions of the poster, let me see if I can find a version of it that has this. Here we go. There we go. This is what you're going to see hold up, let me pull this up. And it's a little misleading. Bruce Campbell, Sam Raimi, Intruder, right? Sam Raimi is a character in it. He acts in this. He did not produce it. As far as I know, he did not direct it. He's a character in it, which is super interesting, and he's actually not bad. But he's a supporting character. Bruce Campbell has a cameo in the very end of the movie. He's on screen for like 2 minutes. That poster is super misleading.
It's not any worse than Scream. Drew Barrymore. And I'm like, Drew Barrymore dies in the first like 5 minutes. Come on.
That kind of ties into, that's at least kind of clever, even in the marketing, because it ties into the whole like the psycho thing of like making you think this is your main character, kill him.
Right. Because Janet Leigh was everywhere, when they were promoting Psycho, and they didn't expect her to get knocked off in the beginning.
Right. Right. And I mean, albeit they killed Drew Barrymore real fast in Scream. But I think that makes that more shocking. This is just, it's not fraudulent because they're not wrong. Those people are in the movie, but it makes it seem like this should be like, what is this? Like a slasher version of Evil Dead? Also interesting is one of the characters is the guy that plays the redneck guy in Evil Dead 2. And I found him extremely enjoyable in this as well.
I never saw this. I've seen the poster, but I never watched the film.
Of this?
Yeah.
It was okay. It was not bad. Like it's pretty well shot. The premise is, let me see if this page, I'll leave this up. Okay, yeah, they have a very succinct overview. The overnight stock crew of a local supermarket find themselves being stalked and slashed by a mysterious maniac. And it's pretty much takes place in a grocery store. And this is like, 80s grocery store, not like more modern big box Walmarts. It's a good sized grocery store in that it's got a deli and stuff. So you've got somebody who, they've got freezer with various deli and butcher machinery that might get used later in the film. But it's not like a huge box store. And Paul says it's interesting for an under the radar movie. But I thought it was pretty decent, but kind of dull. And I see why it's forgettable. I think it's pretty well made. It's shot decently. There's some interesting angles. It's not like super flashy. But I think one of the more interesting aspects of it is the grocery store looks like, it's just like they found and rented out some unused grocery store. So it looks real and dirty and kind of grungy. And it doesn't have a super polished like film set look to it. So it seems real. And that almost makes it feel like an instructional video when you start somewhere at first, like just because it's like, oh, they're obviously shooting at a real like grocery store in the
sometimes back. You'll have to deal with a disgruntled customer, and here's what we do.
and the whole thing here is like whatever. There's several people that worked there. It's the overnight crew, so they're closing up in the beginning, and then a bunch of them, like the cashier ladies, stick around for a while, and there's people who got to stock the shelves, whatever. One of the cashier ladies' ex-boyfriend shows up and he's a nutbag. So he's the one who's like the obvious threat throughout most of the movie. He seems like he ends up running off, but it's kind of a clever setup in that. So for the first 30 minutes, which is where the movie really drags, the first 30 minutes, there's reason for people to like be creeped out and stalking around like this now kind of dark grocery store looking for somebody, the horror movie thing, walking through hallways, because there was legitimately some threat around. One of my pet peeves with horror movies is sometimes people will be creeped out and just doing the like building tension, walking through hallway scenes for no reason, just because it's a horror movie. So this avoided that.
Okay. Sorry, it made me think of something completely different. But there's like somebody in the woods with their kid, and their kid's like, "I think I heard a monster," and they're like, "No, you didn't." And then there's like a twig snap, and they're like, "Oh!" and they got really scared.
Right.
It makes me think of that. Yeah.
So once the kills start, though, they don't stop. There's actually quite a few characters. There's a lot of kills in here. And apparently when this was first released, it was because in 89, the MPAA was like, I think they were just done with slashers. So after a certain point, all slashers were severely censored to get R ratings. Mm-hmm. Fortunately, I think if you watch this now, which is also free on Tubi TV, if you can't find an obscure movie, check out Tubi TV. It's probably there.
That's good to know.
Right.
Not hardware though. Not even on Tubi.
So maybe not.
It's because Richard Stanley got blacklisted.
Yeah, probably.
But the version they have, and I think the more common version you can get now is, I believe, the director's cut. And it is surprisingly gory because for the most part, I was like, this movie's pretty tame. And even when the first couple kills start, I'm like, okay, there's a lot of cutaways, just simple like knife stab, cutaway, scream. Okay. All right. That's fine. Eventually, we're getting like close-ups to somebody's face going into a bandsaw. It gets hardcore. I was actually super surprised by the level of gore in this movie. This is a spoiler in itself, but it does do the obvious setup is that this ex-boyfriend is the murderer, and it maintains that through most of the movie. I'm gonna spoil it. They do a twist because if they didn't do a twist, it was going to be super disappointing. Like, come on. Because they still did the POV shots every time the killer's around. They did some kind of fun things with POV shots where like they'll establish one of the non-killer characters is like kind of creeping on some people through the aisles and watching. They cut away and then they cut back to the same POV shot, but that character then walks into frame and you're like, oh, so he left and the killer's now in his place. It's like there's some fun stuff like that. And the reveal of who the actual killer is pretty decent as far as these type of movies go. It's still just a dude. Like it's not like a masked person or anything. It's just a dude. And finally, to get to something we touched on way earlier this episode was the ending. You've got the final girl. She might even have her tag along guy, like sometimes happens. But it is not a good ending for them. Screw it. I'm going to go full spoiler. More or less. I'm still not going to reveal who the actual killer is. When the cops get there, our main characters get arrested for murder. So I was like, oh. And like one of the cops like beating on him. And I'm like, oh, it's like a slasher if it really happened today. The cops go up and beat you. And you go to jail for murder because who else is going to like...
Too soon.
Oh, wow.
This is 89. Like, that place should have had cameras, I would think, but maybe not. It's still
not for a little rinky-dink place. But
yeah.
can I say, as someone who used to overnight stock, there's no way that a slasher could happen in a grocery store. Like somebody would get murdered, the first person that saw him would scream, and then nobody cares enough to stay in the grocery store with murdered people. Everybody would leave and they'd be like, okay, I'm out. Maybe they call the cops, but they'd definitely leave. I'll tell you that. Nobody's going to Scooby-Doo this. They're going to go home.
Oh, there you go. Movie debunked.
There were a few parts that were not only did the killer kill these people, he then apparently like completely butchered their bodies because just planted body parts everywhere he thought maybe it was like this. It was like the Easter egg hunt of like severed limbs everywhere. After a certain point, if there's a character walking around, every room they went into, there was like in the bathroom, there's shoes. You could see somebody's shoes in the bathroom stall. So he goes and opens it and it's like severed stumps in the shoes, There's a hand. Oh, this has a great shot. I've got to find it. 1 second. I got to find it.
Maybe that's a quality that slashers need to have. Like they need to have some artistic outlet for their killing where they can pose the bodies and make them fall down from places and, or pop up or something.
That's an idea.
This guy, like, he makes a go of it. He enjoys. setting up his little, what do they call it? Like, I feel like 3 or 4 characters got the final girl run where like they go from one room to room. It's like here's a body falling out. Here's a body. It seems like 4 characters got that. There were just body pieces everywhere in this place. Anyway, I can't find the image offhand. I don't want to spend a lot of time with. There's Ted Raimi's also in it. Mm-hmm. Ted Raimi and Sam Raimi. Nice. But Sam Raimi just before. Oh, and that's the one guy from Evil Dead 2. Sam Raimi's character. Oh, there it is. He's working in the back doing his butcher thing, and he pulls out this it's like a ground beef thing, but it's got a hand wrapped in it, mm-hmm. Severed hand in it, and that's just before he gets taken out. So nice. Mm-hmm. So it was simultaneously good, but still kind of dull. Like I understand why it's forgettable.
But it's entertaining than Dude Bro Party Massacre 3?
Okay, so no. Dude Bro Party Massacre 3 was way more entertaining than it had any right to be. And this is super well made. The gore is totally decent. The characters aren't bad. They're pretty flimsy. It seems like everybody does have some type of trait. It does have an interesting atmosphere of like, and this is part of why it's dull. It's like there's small sections of the movie where we're just watching this overnight crew do their job,
Yeah.
That's maybe why it feels kind of like not instructional video, but like, one of those warehouse work videos or something where it's like just watching somebody do the thing. Mm-hmm. But I'd say if you're a slasher fan and you've never seen this, it's totally worth a watch. It's not bad. It's like I said, it's a little slow, but like the gore is on point. It's pretty well made. Kaz Kill. Well, a movie called Dude Bro Massacre 3 is either going to be effing horrible or surprisingly good. Not much middle ground. Yeah, you're right. It's either going to be bad or a surprise. So
I could see that.
I can't believe the whole movie. I'm like, okay, so Sam Raimi was there. That's not a lie. He's not a main character, but he's in it quite a bit. Probably because he was like, I'm going to direct movies and do way better than if I act in them. But he was totally decent. I'm just kind of surprised. I've seen Ted Raimi pop up in a lot more stuff than I've ever seen Sam Raimi pop up as like a face, Mm-hmm. He was pretty good. But the whole movie, I'm waiting for Bruce Campbell.
And you didn't get him.
It's literally like the last 2 minutes he shows up. He's one of the cops that arrests them at the end. And I'm just like, that's your Bruce Campbell that you put up on the poster? Oh, I bet people were upset about that.
I'm sure. I don't blame them.
Okay, I need to stop talking about it. Mm-hmm. There you go. So, how do we feel each of our slashers fit into the slasher genre? And we can include Wirehead in there without, I guess, giving away story details about your character. Because my guy was fine. My guy is almost like more typical, like old school slasher movie villain before they went to the unkillable boogeyman. Mm-hmm. Like, it's okay, but my movie, I felt like rested on the gore,
right?
But how about you guys?
Mine was closer to that unkillable boogeyman, but because like the robot could like basically repower itself anytime it got anywhere near a power source. Like they even said that the sun could power this robot. Never took place during the day, but they had to throw that in there. And like, even the sun. I'm like, well, it's not really a power grid, but okay. So it was that, but then it also had like the very obvious flaw that nobody thought of until the very end, and even then it had to be like literally spelled out for him. So mine falls more into that, but it's more that just like almost mindless hulking killer type of idea.
Yeah, mine wasn't even the killer was not the point of my movie. It was like the least important part of the whole thing, probably.
She was like an afterthought. They're like, well, we have to have a slasher in here somewhere.
Yeah.
Well, we talked about Wirehead quite a bit. He seems like the quiet, unstoppable killer type.
Yes. Yeah. It's similar to Jesse's, right? Jesse.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I remembered his name.
I'm not the only one that does it. Yay.
I'm kidding. Yeah. So similar to that, this hulking machine that's he is a bit mindless, but he's on a program, but he thinks he's helping. So when he's walking around and he's addressing people, he says like, allow me to assist you or allow me to assist. And then he's squeezing your head and he's like, please remain calm. So it's like, he's kind of just, he's a machine gone bad. You know what I mean?
I really love that. It makes me think of like if RoboCop malfunctioned.
Yeah.
Right.
Which other of the robots did in the movie, but like,
right.
That sounds like how RoboCop would malfunction if it instead of the big Ed 209 or whatever that just blows the dude away.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. It's like a mix of the two.
It's like RoboCop and Ed 209.
There you go.
We can stop talking. Listen, I could talk about slashers for another like 2 more hours at least, but we're not going to do that.
No.
No.
No, this was awesome, man. I really appreciate you having me on.
Mm-hmm.
I appreciate you joining us and giving me an excuse to talk about slashers.
Can't go wrong with that.
First off, where can people find out more about Wirehead, and then also your other work and where you hang out online?
Sure. You could find me on YouTube and Instagram and Twitter, all under Geronimo Draws, at Geronimo Draws. You could find the Indiegogo campaign on Indiegogo. Wirehead is up there for 9 more days, so definitely check it out. It's going to be an exclusive book, so and we have some really cool perks and prints created by some of the, in my opinion, some of the greatest indie illustrators right now. I mean, these guys are killing it, and a lot of them are illustrators and creators at Alterna. They did their interpretations of Wirehead as well, but you get them mainly with the featured perk. So I highly recommend everyone checks that one out. And and you can order Blood Realm signed copies through the Indiegogo for the time being, or from Alterna Comics, which is alternaaccess.com.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Do we have, before we get to Melanie's segment, Melanie, do you remember your bit of news?
Yeah.
Which one were you going to go with? Because I have a note, but I know since then you've kind of changed your mind. I have a note of paper release that proves the sun uses the CNO cycle. Did you want to go with the other one, which I don't remember offhand?
And
then,
I don't know, but you go on your thing and I'll look.
Paul, this week, I feel like this week unintentionally is a gift to Paul, because Paul says, wait, no, you know what? No Snyder Watch. We've been tormenting Paul with a recurring Snyder Watch segment, digging up any news we can find every week about Snyder Cut, Justice League, or just Zack Snyder in general, because we know some people can't stand it, so we just keep doing it. No, we don't have any this week. And also, I'm sure you've noticed Paul's comments throughout this. Paul is definitely going to be hitting you up after this, because he also does podcasts. So just
cool, awesome. Please do.
He's a big horror fan. What was the other thing? I feel like we probably lost Savannah.
What?
If not, I'm curious as to if Savannah was if she watched Psycho. She said she was gonna watch Psycho for this week.
Oh yeah.
I don't know.
I was going to ask, what do we want to do next week?
That's the other thing. What monster of the week should we do next week? Should we try to? We got a little ways to Christmas, like 2 weeks, I guess. Should we?
Well, you don't want to do Christmas too far after Christmas.
No,
right.
No. Well, I'll ask you, Robert. Do you have any? What should we do next week for Monster of the Week? And I'll let you know if we've already done it. Like we've already done Frankenstein. That was actually one of my favorite conversations, and I kind of wish if I'd have known, I kind of wish we'd have had you on there because we actually got into just the Frankenstein concept, I guess.
Well, I'm not going to lie. I think Paul just hit it. He said Hicksploitation. So I think you may have to do that since that was birthed from this stream. So
yeah. I like that.
All right. That is good. Yes. All right. Monster of next week. Hicksploitation.
Nice.
Wrong Turn 2. I don't know why I like that movie so much. Just because it's like trash, but decent trash. It knows what it is. And it's got Henry Rollins.
You can't go wrong with that.
No. I have not heard anything good about the series after that, but the first two I think are decent. Melanie, what should we be amazed about?
Yeah, the one thing is kind of boring, and I might not even go science-y, but I don't think we've had an episode since the human stakes, have we?
Did we talk about I feel like we talked about that.
Did we?
Where you can grow your own.
You can grow your own human meat to eat.
Literally your own human meat to
eat.
You
get a kit and it's got
Jesse's reaction is telling me we haven't. So do that. It's disgusting.
They're called
disgusting and kind of fits.
How do you say it wrong?
Chia meat.
Ouroboros steaks, but you get medical waste, but it's a plasma base. And then
this sounds incredible.
And then you swab your cheek, and it uses your skin cells, and then in that base, it will grow little people meat steaks that you can eat.
Soylent.
So that was the comment that somebody had made. Yeah, Soylent Green is real.
I would have remembered this.
How is that not a form of cannibalism? Is it because you're eating your own meat? Like this just seems wrong. Everything about this is horrible.
That's
gross.
To each his own. Yes, maybe. But
Did you buy this in the grocery store that Intruder works at?
Maybe.
There was human meat packaged and ready to go in that movie.
Sure.
I like Paul's comment. We did not talk human steaks. I've been waiting for this.
Yeah.
This is the ultimate Snyder cut.
No. But the idea behind it, I'm not sure if they're available yet to the public, but they will be. But the idea behind it was to draw attention to a lot of the synthetic meats that they have right now still use animal products to create them. And this uses human waste products, not animal. But they're still slaughtering animals to make the synthetic meat, so it's not really any different than meat. But this is an alternative you can eat yourself and save some animals. And maybe it's tasty. I don't know. I've never had people, but if you've ever wanted to try, now you can.
Chicken?
Homegrown long pig.
Mm-hmm.
That actually would have fit maybe better into Hicksploitation week.
Definitely.
Yeah. But okay, that's it.
Robert's looked confused the whole time. So Melody's all as much as we're into comics or horror movies. Melody loves science things, so she's always telling us science things. So we made it a recurring segment at the end of the episode.
Yeah, because people don't spend enough time being amazed at all the breakthroughs that are happening constantly.
Right,
and so
true.
Yeah,
true. I like it.
All right. Once again, Robert, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
And everybody else, thanks for watching. In the future, thanks for listening. You can always find more at grawlixpodcast.com. It's GRAWLIX podcast.com. Don't forget to check out Robert's book, Wirehead, and his existing series, Blood Realm.
Blood Realm. Love to hear you guys' thoughts on the
Kingdom of Blood is pretty cool. That's a pretty good title too, but I get the quick, snappy, I get that.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. Have a good weekend.
Take care, everyone.
Good night, everyone.